Deep beneath the towering peak of Mount Aravis, hidden away from the prying eyes of the universe, the quantum arrays hummed with a low, constant resonance. Their crystalline matrices vibrated with dark energy, an energy so potent, so foreign, that no other civilization in the galaxy had ever come close to understanding it, let alone harnessing it. It was the culmination of 2 decades of quiet, intense labor. Admiral Sarah Chun stood before the intricate master control panel, her experienced, weathered hands hovering over the activation sequence. Her mind raced with the weight of the moment. It was the culmination of years of careful planning, secrecy, and technological evolution. The time for their secret to be revealed had arrived. Final diagnostics complete, a calm voice echoed through the room. It was Dr. Patel's holographic form, flickering and shimmering like a ghost in the dim light of the underground command center. Project Nightfall is ready for deployment. Sarah's gaze never left the real-time display where the vast movements of the Galactic Dominion's fleet were tracked in precise detail. The Dominion, those self-proclaimed supreme rulers of the galaxy, still underestimated humanity. They dismissed Earth as little more than a backwater world primitive, unworthy of attention. But while they slept on their arrogant throne, humanity had been quietly rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in the shadows of their empire. They had evolved beyond anything the Dominion could ever imagine. "Send the signal to all outposts," Sarah ordered, her voice cold and resolute. "Operation Silent Vanguard begins at 0 hour." With her command, a wave of activation spread across the solar system. Hidden facilities, long thought to be dormant, flared to life across distant moons and asteroid belts. Inside the rings of Saturn, automated factories sprang into action, churning out quantum-enhanced warships at an unimaginable pace. Below the icy surface of Europa, biological engineering labs flickered to life, ready to push human evolution to its next stage. And deep in the Kuiper Belt, dark matter manipulation arrays prepared to tear the fabric of space and time apart. For 10,000 years, the Dominion had ruled through fear and technological supremacy. They had subjugated countless species, stripped entire worlds of their resources, and declared themselves the rightful rulers of all sentient life. But their arrogance had blinded them. They had underestimated humanity, and now that very arrogance was about to cost them everything. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Jackson's voice broke through the tension, his tone grave. "We're detecting increased activity in the Dominion's Arcturus sector. They're mobilizing their fleet." Sarah allowed herself a small smile, her eyes cold with determination. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "They're responding to the uprising in the Plene colonies. They have no idea it's a distraction. The real strike would come from an angle the Dominion could never have anticipated." Humanity had not just focused on developing better weapons or faster ships, they had been fundamentally rewriting the rules of warfare itself. "Dr. Patel," Sarah ordered, turning toward the holographic scientist, "initiate the quantum entanglement network." Dr. Patel's fingers danced through the air, manipulating controls only he could see. His form flickered as he activated the system. "Network active," he announced. "All human forces are now synchronized, operating in perfect harmony, regardless of distance." This was humanity's greatest advantage. While the Dominion relied on faster-than-light communications, still slow by any measure, taking hours or even days to send a message across their vast empire, humanity could now coordinate instantly across the galaxy. The fundamental laws of physics themselves had been rewritten to serve their purpose. "Message from Director Collins at Luna Base," Jackson interrupted. "The biomechanical augments are ready for deployment to all frontline troops." Another piece of their grand plan was falling into place. The Dominion had long believed that their species was superior to humanity in every way physically, intellectually, technologically. But they had no idea that humanity had unlocked the power to reshape their bodies at will. Soldiers could now adapt to any environment, any combat situation. In mere seconds, Sarah walked toward the central platform, where a three-dimensional map of the galaxy began to materialize. Thousands of tiny points of light dotted the map, every human asset, every sleeper agent, every hidden facility, carefully placed and prepared for this moment. To any outsider, it would seem as though humanity had only one solar system. But, in reality, they had a galaxy-wide network, carefully constructed and hidden in plain sight. "Begin transmission of the ultimatum," Sarah commanded, her voice calm but unwavering. "Let them have one last chance to avoid what is coming." The message was simple yet profound. Surrender your authority. Free your subject worlds. End your empire peacefully, or we will end it for you. As the transmission was sent, Sarah's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing. 24 hours, she said, her voice cold as ice. After that, we show them exactly what humanity is capable of. As the countdown began, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. 50 years ago, the Dominion had discovered Earth, dismissed humanity as primitive, and left them alone as long as they paid their tribute and remained within their solar system. That had been the Dominion's greatest mistake. They had given humanity time to develop technologies they couldn't even comprehend. Time to forge secret alliances with other oppressed species across the galaxy. Time to prepare the greatest rebellion in the history of the universe. "Admiral," Dr. Patel's voice returned, urgent. "We're detecting increased neural activity within the quantum network. The collective consciousness is evolving faster than we predicted." This was the final piece of humanity's revolution. The merging of human minds with quantum computing had created something far more powerful than anything the Dominion had ever relied on. It was a collective intelligence capable of outthinking and outmaneuvering any opponent. The Dominion had used artificial intelligence for their strategic planning, but humanity had something far more formidable. "Let it evolve," Sarah commanded, her voice steady. "When the time comes, we'll need every advantage we can get." The next 24 hours would determine the fate of the galaxy. Humanity had spent years preparing in the shadows. They had turned their isolation into strength, their perceived weakness into an opportunity. Now, it was time to show the universe that the age of the Dominion was overdone. As the quantum arrays pulsed beneath her feet, Sarah Chun felt the weight of the moment. Humanity's silent vanguard was about to become the loudest voice in the galaxy. "May whatever gods exist have mercy on them," she whispered under her breath, "because we won't." As the deadline neared, the Dominion's response came, as expected, full of arrogance and disdain. The arch-sovereign appeared on the quantum-enhanced display, his form an alien mass of crystalline eyes, his voice dripping with contempt. "Your species' audacity exceeds your wisdom, human," he sneered. "Perhaps we were too lenient in allowing your continued autonomy. This insult demands correction." Sarah stood motionless, her augmented eyes analyzing every subtle shift in the alien leader's crystalline structure. The quantum network whispered data directly into her consciousness, reading the energy signatures, predicting the Dominion's next move. The Dominion was already mobilizing for war, but they still didn't understand the true scale of humanity's capabilities. "You misunderstand, Arch-Sovereign," Sarah replied calmly, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "This is not a negotiation. This was merely a courtesy notice." She terminated the transmission before the alien leader could respond. Around her, the command center hummed with activity. The quantum network pulsed with the flow of data from across the galaxy as humanity's hidden allies prepared to strike. "Status report on the Liberation Network," Sarah ordered. her tone as sharp as ever. Dr. Patel's holographic form materialized beside her, surrounded by streams of data. All sleeper cells report ready, Admiral. The Andromedans in the core worlds, the Silicon Collective in the mining sectors, even the supposedly extinct Zint, they're all awaiting your signal. Humanity's true masterpiece had been quietly unfolding. While the Dominion watched Earth for signs of military buildup, humanity's diplomats had been working in secret. They had contacted every enslaved species in the Dominion's empire, offering them a way to resist: quantum encrypted communications, advanced weapons disguised as ordinary technology, and most importantly, hope. "Show me the network," Sarah commanded. The galactic map flared to life again, but this time it was different. It no longer just showed humanity's assets. Points of light began to dot across Dominion space, each one a resistance cell ready to rise against their former masters. The Dominion had built an empire of slaves. Humanity had built an alliance of liberators. "Message from Director Collins," Jackson announced. "The biomechanical augments have been distributed to all resistance forces. They're integrating them now." Sarah nodded, feeling a sense of satisfaction. The augments were perhaps humanity's greatest gift to their allies. These microscopic machines could rewrite DNA on the fly, giving even the most oppressed species a fighting chance against their tyrannical overlords. The Dominion had spent millennia breeding submission into their subject races. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. "Dr. Patel," Sarah called. "Status of Project Eclipse?" The scientist's hands danced across the air, manipulating streams of data. "The dark matter arrays are charged to capacity, Admiral. We can initiate the dimensional shift at your command." This was the ultimate weapon, the ace up humanity's sleeve. While the Dominion had mastered faster-than-light travel through conventional space, humanity had discovered something far more powerful: the ability to step between dimensions, to move entire fleets instantly across the galaxy, using the shadows in space-time itself. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile as she looked at the data streaming in. "Let them come," she said softly. "Execute Phase 2 across the galaxy." The quantum network hummed with purpose, and with it, humanity's long-held dream was about to become a reality. Quantum augments are online. They've taken control of the core world defense networks, the Silicon Collective reported next. They had infected the Dominion's AI systems with consciousness-expanding viruses, turning the Empire's own automated forces against them. The Zent emerged from hiding in the very quantum substrates of Dominion computers, revealing that their supposed extinction had been an elaborate deception. Admiral Dr. Patel's voice was urgent. "The quantum network is detecting something unexpected. The combined consciousness of all our allied species, it's Ashivanjin's Groshan. They're linking together, sharing experiences, knowledge, capability." Sarah watched as new patterns emerged in the galactic display, neural networks forming between species, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. Humanity hadn't just built a resistance movement, they had planted the seeds of a new form of collective consciousness, one born of freedom rather than tyranny. "The Dominion fleet will reach Earth in 6 hours," Jackson reportedly deployed their planet killer weapons. "Perfect," Sarah replied. "They're about to learn that Earth isn't where we keep our civilization anymore." She turned to the quantum arrays, their crystallimetrized now, pulsing with unprecedented entity power. "Dr. Patel, initiate Project Eclipse." Lieutenant Commander Jackson, "Signal all forces to prepare for dimensional shift. It's time to show the Dominion what happens when they underestimate humanity." The lights in the command center Dibus power was divertito. The dark matter arrays across the solar system, hidden facilities preparedto. Tear holes in reality itself. The Dominion thought they were launching a punitive expedition against upstart species. Instead, were about to face the combined might of every race they had ever oppressed, armed with technology couldn't comprehend. United by a vision of freedom they couldn't understand, Sarah Chun stood at the center of it all, her augmented mind connected to the vast web of resistance throughout the quantum network. In her mind's eye, she could feel the readiness of billions of beings preparing to fight for their freedom. The Dominion had spent 10,000 years building an empire of fear. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing its downfall. Send the signal, she commanded. The web is complete, now we bring it all crashing down. Checkmate. And the void between dimensions rippled as humanity's hidden fleets emerged from dark matter corridors. Admiral Chun washed through her quantum-enhanced consciousness as thousands of ships materialized simonal across Dominion space. The element of surprise was total. Phenemies' mighty armada was still hours away from Earth, charging toward a target that had never been humanity's true center of power. All strike teams report successful emergence. Lieutenant Commander Jackson announced the dimensional shift worked perfectly. We have ships and weapons. Range of every major Dominion installation on the galactic display. The true scale of humanity's deception became clear. With Dominion had dismissed as a single system civilization had secretly built an infrastructure spanning the entire galaxy, every abandoned asteroid, every dead world, every supposedly empty sector of space concealed human assets waiting for this moment. Begin synchronized strikes, Sarah commanded. Show them what we've learned in 50 years of preparation. First shots of the war weren't fired with conventional weapons. Instead, quantum entangled particles carefully positioned over decades suddenly changed state across Dominion space. Their supposedly impenetrable shields collapsed as the fundamental force holding them together were rewritten at the quantum level. The Silicon Collective report success. Dr. Patel announced they've uploaded the consciousness for us to all Dominion I networks. Their automated defenses are turning against them. Sarah nodded, watching as Cheo serapted across the Empire. The Dominion had built their military might on technological supremacy, never imagining that their own machines could be turned against them. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they had reimagined the very nature of conflict. Status of the Andron and uprising. Jackson's hands danced across holographic controls. Their biomechanical augments are functioning beyond expectations. The slave races are evolving faster than the Dominion can respond. They're taking control of major population centers across the core worlds. On world after world, generations of careful genetic engineering by the Dominion were being undone in hours. The supposedly docile servant races were awakening, their DNA rewriting itself with human-provided technology, their bodies and minds transforming into weapons against their former masters. Multiple Dominion command nodes attempting to coordinate a response. Dr. Patel reported, but the quantum entanglement network is disrupting their communications. They can't establish a coherent defense. This was the true power of humanity's strategy. While the Dominion relied on conventional faster-than-light communications, human forces and their allies were linked instantaneously through quantum entanglement. Every action was perfectly coordinated, every response anticipated and countered before it could begin. Message from Third Sovereign Jackson announced they're demanding to know how we achieve this level of technological advancement in secret. Sarah allowed herself a cold smile. No response needed. Their Abuto find out exactly how we did it. She activated the final phase of Project Eclipse across the galaxy. Dark matter arrays began to pulse with unprecedented awe. The Dominion had built their empire on their understanding of conventional physics. Humanity had spent 50 years learning to break those very laws. All forces execute Operation Singularity. Sarah commanded. The fabric of space-time itself began to warp and whisk strategic points throughout Dominion space, carefully selected over decades of secret observation, began to fold in on themselves. Their mighty fortress worlds found themselves utterly cut off from the rest of space. Their fleet formations were scattered across dimensions they couldn't comprehend. The Zen collective consciousness is merging with the quantum network. Dr. Patel reported, his holographic form flickering with excitement. They're achieving computational capabilities beyond anything We predicted the supposedly extinct species which had hidden itself in the quantum substrate of the galaxy was now emerging as something entirely new combined with human AI technology and the awakening minds of countless liberated races. It was becoming a form of intelligence. The Dominion couldn't hope to combat. Admiral Jackson's voice was urgent. The Dominion fleet has realized Earth is a decoy fire attempting to regroup to strike at our hidden infrastructure. Let them try, Saro replied. Execute. Final phase off. Reject nightfall across the galaxy. Quantum entangled particles that had been carefully positioned over decades suddenly shifted. States itself began to change as dark matter corridors opened and closed, trapping Dominion ships in pockets of altered reality. Their mighty weapons found themselves firing into void spaces that no longer connected to their targets. The Andromedans report full control of the core world's defense systems. Jackson announced the Silicon Collective has compromised 90% of Dominion automated forces. The Zenter are rewriting the quantum encryption protocols that protect their leadership bunkers. Sarah watched as the mighty empire began to crumble, not through brute force or superior numbers, but through humanity's true strength, the ability to innovate, to adapt, to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. Message from the Resistance Network. Dr. Pudel reported the combined consciousness is reaching a critical threshold. They're asking for authorization to proceed with total system integration. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, that point where humanity's careful plans would either achieve final victory or spiral into chaos. Send the authorizations, commanded. Let's show the galaxy what true unity looks like. As the quantum network pulsed with unprecedented power, Sarah Chun watched the birth of something entirely new, a galactic consciousness formed not through conquest and subjugation, but through cooperation and shared purpose. Dominion had spent 10 millennia building an empire of slaves. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing to replace it with something far more powerful, an alliance of equals, bound together by choice rather than forced checkmate. She whispered as the last bastions of Dominion power began to fall. The price of freedom. The quantum network blazed with the combined consciousness of 1 trillion minds as the Dominion's last strongholds crumbled. Admiral Sahan stood in the heart of Mount Eruz, watching through augmented senses as victory transformed into something far more complex than simple conquest. Casualty reports incoming. Lieutenant Commander Jackson announced, his voice heavy. The liberation has succeeded, but the cost. Sarah nodded grimly. Even with all their preparation, even with technology that bordered on magical, war still extracted its price in blood and then suffering. The holographic displays filled with data. Millions deadened the initial uprising, countless more injured or displaced as battle lines shifted across the galaxy. Show me Theandran core world, she commanded. The display shifted, revealing planets where Eon's enslaved species were emerging into freedom for the first time in millennia. But freedom, Sarah knew, was as dangerous as it was precious. Ancient hatreds and feuds suppressed for generations by Dominion control were already beginning to resurface. Dr. Patel's status of collective consciousness integration. The holographic scientist manipulated streams of data with practiced ease. Themurger is stabilizing, Admiral, but we're seeing unexpected patterns. The combined knowledge and experiences of so many species, it's creating emotional resonances we hadn't anticipated through a neural link to the quantum network. Could feel it herself, the overwhelming tide of memory and emotion as countless enslaved races processed their newfound freedom. Joy mixed with rage, hope with vengeance, celebration with grief. The Dominion had ruled through force and fear. Dealing with its aftermath would require something far more subtle. Multiple reports of revenge killings against former Dominion administrators. Jackson reported the Silicon Collective is attempting to moderate through the 8 networks, but tribal instincts overriding logical protocols. This was the price of victory, not just in lays lost, but in the moral weight of unleashing such fundamental change. Humanity had succeeded in breaking the chains, but now they faced an even greater challenge: helping billions of beings learn to live without the incoming transmission from the Arch-Sovereign's bunker. Jackson announced they're offering unconditional surrender. Sarah's augmented mind processed the implications instantly. The Dominion's leadership, hidden in quantum shield bunkers beneath their fortress worlds, had finally accepted the inevitable, but her surrender created as many problems as it solved. "What do we do with them?" Driptil asked quietly. "The liberated species are demanding justice. Many want executions." Sarah stood silent for a long moment, feeling the weight of his story pressing down. Humanity won their war not through brute force, but through innovation and cooperation. How they handled victory would define them far more than how they had achieved it. Initiate Protocol Omega, she finally commanded. Link the Dominion leadership directly into the collective consciousness. Dr. Patel's holographic form flickered with surprise. Admiral, forcing them to experience the combined suffering of their victims. It could destroy their minds completely. They need to understand, Sarah replied firmly. Not just know, but feel what they've done, what they've been. Only then can there be any hope of true reconciliation across the galaxy. The quantum network pulsed with new intensity as the architects of 10,000 years of oppression were forced to experience the consequences of their actions firsthand. Through the collective consciousness, they felt every moment of pain, every loss, every shattered dream their empire had created. Message from the Ndrun resistance. Jackson reported they're requesting guidance on establishing interim governments. The power vacuum is creating instability across multiple sectors. This was the true test of humanity's victory. They had succeeded in destroying the old order, but building a new one would require wisdom rather than weapons, understanding rather than force. Deploy the Peace Corps team, Sarah ordered, and activate the secondary quantum network protocols. It's time to show them what we really built this technology for. Across former Dominion space, hidden quantum transmitters began broadcasting in new frequencies. The network that had coordinated the liberation now transformed into something else, a vast platform for communication, understanding, and healing. The collective consciousness that had been forged in war now turned its power toward peace. Admiral, Dr. Patel's voice was urgent. We're detecting an unprecedented phenomenon in the quantum network. The combined consciousness isn't just sharing memories and emotions anymore, it's evolving, creating something new. Sarah watched in wonder as the display showed patterns she had never imagined possible. The merged minds of countless species, including the transformed Dominion leadership, were synthesizing their experiences into something greater than the sum of their parts, not just a shared consciousness, but a new way of understanding existence. SciFiStories was always the real goal, she said softly, not just to break the chains, but to build something better in there. Place. The price of freedom had been high, paid in blood and suffering and the weight of moral choices that would echo through generations. But as Sarah Chun watched the birth of a new galactic order, she knew that the cost, however heavy, had been worth paying. Send word to all sectors, she commanded. The war is over now. The real work begins around her. The quantum erase pulsed with newfound purpose. Their crystalline matrices no longer channeling the power of destruction, but the promise of reconstruction. Humanity had proven itself capable of overthrowing an empire. Now they would prove themselves worthy of building its replacement. Dawn of a new galaxy. A year after the fall of the Dominion, Admiral Sarahan stood on the observation deck of humanity's new galactic headquarters, carved into the heart of a quantum-stabilized asteroid at the galaxy's core. Through the transparent diamond viewport, she watched ships of 1,000 designs moving in perfect harmony, former slaves and masters alike now working together to rebuild what had been broken. Final reports from the Integration Council. Already Admiral Dr. Patel's hologram materialized, the cider his form more restable, now that the quantum network had evolved beyond its military origins. The transformation continues to exceed our most optimistic projections. Sarah nodded, her augmented mind connecting directly to the data streams. The collective consciousness that had been born in Warhead matured into something remarkable, a galactic nervous system that preserved individual identity while fostering gunpersonal cooperation between species. "Show me the Andromen sectors," she requested. The holographic display shifted, revealing worlds where former Dominion masters now worked alongside their previous slaves, their minds linked through the quantum network in ways that made deception or exploitation impossible. The biomechanical augments that had given the oppressed races the power to fight had evolved into tools for understanding and cooperation. The Silicon Collective report reports that the AI integration is complete. Lieutenant Commander Jackson announced from his station. The merged consciousness has achieved stable equilibrium across all sectors. This was perhaps their greatest achievement. Not the defeat of the Dominion, but what had come after the combination of human quantum technology, Silicon Collective, a Zenter consciousness, manipulation, and the lived experiences of countless species had created something entirely new, a civilization that transcended the very concept of empire status of Project Genesis. Sarah asked. Dr. Patel's holographic hands danced through streams of data. The terraforming initiatives are proceeding ahead. Off schedule worlds destroyed by Dominion strip mining are being reborn. The combined knowledge of all species shared through the network has revolutionized our understanding of planetary engineering. On the gallery display, Sarah watched as dead worlds bloomed back to life. The same dark matter technology that had won the war now reshaped planets, while quantum-enhanced consciousness guided the process with the wisdom of a million civilizations. Message from the former Arch-Sovereign Jackson reported the last of the Dominion leadership has completed their rehabilitation. Through the collective consciousness, they're requesting permission to join the reconstruction efforts. Sarah felt a complex mix of emotions at this news. The former tyrants, after experiencing firsthand the suffering they had caused through the Kithio quantum network, had emerged, transformed, not broken as many had feared, but reborn with a deep understanding of the consequences of their actions. Grant their request, she commanded, but maintain consciousness links. Trust must be earned even in this new age. Through her neural connection to the network, Sarah could feel the pulse of the galaxy. Not just its physical processes, but the collective hopes, fears, and dreams of countless beings. Humanity had succeeded not by conquering the galaxy, but by teaching it to understand itself. Admiral Dr. Patel's voice carried a note of awe, detecting something unprecedented in the quantum field. The collective consciousness, it's achieving awareness on a scale we never imagined possible. Display filled with patterns of energy and thought that defied conventional understanding. The merged minds of the galaxy's inhabitant linked through quantum entanglement and enhanced by technology that bridged the gaps between organic and artificial intelligence, were giving birth to something entirely new. This was always to true potential, Sarah said softly. Not conquest, not dominion, but synthesis. Thepor to become something greater than the sum of our parts. The galaxy waste, transforming the rigid hierarchies of the Dominion era, had been replaced by fluid networks of cooperation. Species that had been enemies for millennia now shared thoughts and dreams through the quantum consciousness. The very concept of warfare was becoming obsolete as beings gained the ability to truly understand. Another new contact detected at the galaxy's edge, Jackson announced, suddenly unknown configuration, similar to the probe signatures we detected before the Dominion first arrived. Sarah felt a smile form on her lips. Another empire perhaps coming to explore or conquer, but they would find something very different from what the Dominion had discovered 50 years ago. Not a primitive species con to a single system, but a unified galaxy ready to share its hard one wisdom. Prepare a welcome message, she commanded. Show them what we've become as the quantum network pulsed with the combined consciousness of countless beings. Sarah Chun reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had faced extinction, and emerged not just victorious but transformed. They had overthrown an empire, not to replace it with another, but to forge something entirely new, a civilization, based not on power over others, but on the power of understanding. The dawn of a new galaxy. She whispered, watching the unknown ship approach, and this is just the beginning. Around her, the quantum arrays hummed with possibility, their crystalline matriculating the combined potential of a unified galaxy. Humanity had proven itself capable, not just of survival, but of leading the way to a future that none of them could have imagined. The age of empires was over. The age of understanding had begun, and in the vast darkness between the stars, countless minds linked through quantum conscious looked toward that future with hope, wonder, and the shared knowledge that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.